It is Monday, May 19th at 6:30 p.m. And this is the meeting of the Affordable Housing Trust. And we have enough members here for a quorum this evening. We have Marianne here, Angus Michaels, Mark Rambacher, and myself, and Matthew Nordhaus. So we can go ahead and get started. So we have items on the agenda this evening related to our typical business. And we have Amy with us from EHS to be able to talk about applications for the small grant program. So Amy, if you would like to start where we left off from the last applicants, then we can review any new ones that you have as well.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted. Did you want me, so you want me to start with small grant application number 4?
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I did reach out to Steve Whitten, and I'm just waiting on him to get over there to get a risk assessment for us on the trees. And so once I have that information, I can report back. With small grant application number 7, the homeowner's insurance won't help with regular maintenance repairs. They only help with like damage from storms and things like that. And since this wasn't one of those situations, they won't help with the chimney repair.
Right. So, so with that being the case, then, just to make sure everybody's on the same page, could you refresh our memory then? I believe it was $1,700.
Correct.
Okay. And so our approval last time was to make the grant for $1,700 conditional pending further information. And so at this point then, given that additional information, it sounds like we should go ahead and finalize that vote to approve it if there's no further discussion about it. So members, is there any further discussion about this given our previous conditional approval?
I move a motion to approve.
Second.
All right, thank you. Angus moved and Matthew seconded. So all those in favor, Matthew,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Angus,
Yes.
and Mark,
Yes.
and Anna's a yes. All right, so that's grant number 7. Yep, number 7. Thank you.
All right. And then with grant application number 8, that was the one that was denied because of the second home. And I think there was questions that I was going to receive, and there's been a lot going on in town, so I haven't received those yet.
Okay. So with respect to that work, I believe that we had requested that some of the original members of this particular small group get together and talk about that. Let's see.
Yeah, I apologize. I think that Mark and Bartlett and I were supposed to get together to review that, and we did not, right? Because I think it was a case of something we didn't really consider when we put the first guidelines in place, but should we approve it within the current guidelines and then just potentially adjust moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
But I did not, Mark, I don't know if you spoke to Bartlett about it, but I did not.
I have not.
Take that action, so. So how do we want to move forward? Should we take that action again? I mean, is there any time sensitivity on this, Amy?
I mean, we can, if you guys had questions that you wanted to have me follow up with the applicant with, I'm happy to do so. These types of estimates are typically good for 30 days or so. So, I can't recall when her estimate was provided. I would have to go back and look. But I don't foresee there being too much of a change with a ramp. So if you guys wanted to gather, if you had additional questions that you wanted me to get information on, I'm happy to do so.
Okay, then why don't we get together this week, since we're meeting again next week? We could then bring that back to next week's meeting if we do have questions or further recommendation.
So I just wanted to make sure that if we do that, that it's the only one. Last time it took like 40 minutes out of our agenda before we could get started on, and those jerky meetings are specifically intended to be just for that. So if we do, this should be the only one that comes forward on next Tuesday. No, I'm sorry, next Wednesday.
Yeah, that's fair. And Mark, I think we can make sure we have a strong recommendation at that point.
Okay. My apologies. It is next Tuesday, May 27th. All these days. Okay. All right. That sounds good. Thank you very much for the additional time to discuss that. And Amy, thank you for your time as well.
No problem.
All right. So you want to keep going on application number 8? No, I'm sorry, the new applications.
All right, so I believe 3 were sent over, but actually I've only received recommendations from Henry on one of them. He's still working on recommendations. He had follow-up questions for the contractors and wanted to go out and see one of the other applications prior to making his decision. So we only have application SGP 11 today.
So 11 is the one to move the laundry room from the first floor or to the first floor from the basement. So this is a second one like this, right? Because we've had one like it
Correct.
before. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. So the household meets the AMI requirement. They're moving the laundry from the first or from the basement to the first floor. The estimated job cost for the lowest estimate was $7,670.28. And that is the proposal that became recommended from Henry.
Okay. Members, any discussion on this application?
The applicant's going to cover any additional cost above the 7,500. They're capable
Yes.
of doing that.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Do we have a motion to move this forward?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we're advancing application number 11 and in the amount of $7,500. And so any further discussion? Okay, let's vote on that. Matthew,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Angus,
Yes.
and Ann is a yes.
Perfect.
So then we received a report on the balance of funds. Maren, would you like to talk about that? Or Amy, whomever is most appropriate.
Just a listing of the applications that have been received to date, the dollar amounts that had been approved or in some cases are being contemplated, just to provide a status of what applications have been done and what the total grant fund looks like at the moment.
Okay, so remind me, Maren, with this particular grant, do dollars roll over or is it use it or lose it?
It's reimbursable, so it we have it should be all spent by end of June next year.
Okay. Mark, any questions on this? I seem to recall that you had requested to get this info.
So my only question to Maren is, I know we had 2 years to spend it. Were we limited in what we were allowed to spend in a given year, or we just have?
No, we're not limited for what we spend and
Okay.
can get reimbursed for either this year or next.
Okay, and my understanding is we're asking for additional funds in this next round?
So, yeah, so that was another discussion for tonight.
Okay.
So does anyone else have any other questions about this particular report? I
No
think it's quite,
questions. Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. It just confirms what we've been seeing, right? Really good traction. So thanks to Amy and Maren and the team for advertising. I mean, it's serving exactly the purpose that we had hoped. So it's great to see.
and if the applicants were all to get funded, then that means that we will have used more than half. So that's a good use of the dollars from the grant. And the best part about it is that they don't go away as long as we keep benefiting Littleton residents. So that's great. So to your point, Mark, about a new state grant, Maren, I think you had said that it would be due sometime in June. Is that correct?
Yep, that's correct. So it would be through the Community One Stop Grant portal. And I'm working now on a series of grants. This is one of them. Additional funding is a grant, one of the grants that I'm applying for. That's what I'm trying to say. A couple of questions for the trust come up. What do you think would be the appropriate amount to request? We received the $120,000 for, a 2-year fiscal period, but it looks like we're going to could easily spend the full 120 by this fall or this winter. So I was wondering if it was appropriate to request maybe $240,000 because that'll give us, and we're obviously double what we're able to do at the current time.
Right. So the $7,500, that's the current amount, funds 16 homes or applicants. So what you're saying is that we would double that to 32 at that same amount.
So let me say it another way. I apparently confused myself too. So this next grant I would suggest that should be for $240,000.
Right. So that would then fund 32 applications. at
Assuming that they
7,500.
all get the maximum, right? But
Right,
it's
exactly.
probably sensible to just state the dollar amount.
Yeah.
And would this new grant have the same requirements and limitations of the existing one?
It's a similar
Different program.
Right, it's similar program. I haven't noticed any big differences in the text of the grant requirements, so it would be very similar.
Okay. Yeah, I think doubling it is sensible. Maybe round it up to just a $250,000 because it's a nice round number.
So Maren, if we ask for more money, are we more or less, are we asking for that amount of money or up to that amount of money? So they could still fund it at 120 when we ask for 240, or is it all or nothing, or?
If we shoot high, they can still give us below that. It's not all or nothing.
Okay.
I think when we applied last time also, we specified the 7,500 as the max. Do we want to keep that this time? And what do you think, Amy? Are you seeing a lot of requirements come in? I don't think we want to decrease it. Would there be any need to increase that? Or do we like the 7,500?
I mean, I think honestly, it kind of really depends on the job that's being done and the household. So if you're looking for consistency and simplicity's sake, keeping it on like a having a standard dollar amount that people can request and having them come up with the additional funds is fine. But if there are folks out there that are financially more limited and aren't able to cover those remaining balances, those are the only people that I can foresee it being an impact on. I have one that's in progress that they're looking to get their roof done. So, I mean, there is the possibility of working with Habitat for Humanity to supplement that cost and work out a payment plan. And that person might be able to handle that. So, I mean, it really just depends on what you guys are looking for. I think keeping some good guidelines in place are perfect, and I like that. So it's kind of up to you guys.
Yeah. Just wanted
I'm
to
not seeing a ton of ones that are coming in super high.
Okay, so that was my question, Amy. I was going to ask, in your experience, I mean, I haven't been keeping any tallies at all. Is there a preponderance of people seeking amounts higher than 7,500? I'm not sure I've seen that, but there has been one or two, but you're better positioned to advise us on that.
Yeah, I think 75 is a good number, and I feel like it's reasonable. And with the types of jobs that this type of program is trying to meet the need of, I think that's a good number. You might have your rare occasions where there's something coming in a little higher, but it hasn't proven to be common within the applications that I've been reviewing so far. I think there's been maybe one that's come in significantly higher than the amount that we can approve.
So since we've seen so many of these applications so quickly when compared to LRAP, for example, I am inclined to want to keep the number, the maximum low, or like leave it the same at 7,500. That does seem to be a good number. But to your point, Amy, about someone who's very in a very difficult situation, maybe we rewrite the program and say that 7,500 is the maximum, except for specific special circumstances that we can vote on as a board. And that might be additional financial requirements from the applicant or matching funds from another organization. So that if we do get someone who needs a new roof and it's 25,000 and Habitat says we'll pay half, then we can go up to 12.5. That decision can also be based on how many we're seeing. If this tapers off and we're sitting on 120,000 at the beginning of next year, perhaps it's not such a big deal to spend 30 grand on one person, but I would hesitate to do that until we figure out just how many people really need help, because man, like 32 people isn't that many really, and what have we seen already? 15 applicants? 20?
11.
No, I mean, I'm curious how many people have actually come forward and looked for money from the program.
I would have to go back and check.
Yeah.
I do know I have a couple that are in my filing cabinet that I'm waiting on estimates for. That's at least 3 or 4. And a couple other people that have said that they have interest in the program and they're really just kind of gathering their information to begin the application process. So in all, probably there's like an additional 6 to 7 that are in queue, for a better way to put it.
Okay.
And if all were to actually get funded, that would mean the remainder of the funds that are currently available from this grant. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
So just to add on to some of the things Matthew said about, potentially funding higher amounts. The other thing that's been talked about when we were designing the program, one of the things that was mentioned is we could make it something that it's rather than we're paying for it, it's a loan. So we're basically putting a lien on the property. So if you sell the property, we get our $7,500 back. The general consensus among the people that helped write this program, correct me when I'm wrong, Marianne, was that we didn't really like that, but maybe that's something we do for some of these larger amounts. Like if we're putting on a roof, right? Maybe that's something we'd say, we'll help you put on the roof, but we're expecting some reimbursement when you sell your house, for example, right? In whatever time frame that is. So it's something else we could consider if we wanted to extend beyond the $7,500.
Yep. I agree. That's my recollection as well, Mark, as to why we did not go in that direction. But for a large ticket item, I think that's a better solution than not helping.
Okay, and one of the additional questions in the grant application is any local match. So I didn't know if I hadn't heard any discussion from the trust if there was a local match.
Where would the local match come from?
CPC, would they match?
CPC can't do that.
Okay. Businesses, like, I don't know, that's not a model that we've really pursued at all, is asking for private donations. And I don't think it's probably not a good time to start.
Would it be us? Affordable Housing Trust matching?
We don't have much money that's not part of the CPC, do we, that we could use?
Do you know what they had in mind, Maren, for the match?
It's one of those standard grant questions.
Yeah.
So I hadn't heard the trust discussing that, so.
Well, I think the conversations that I've had with Bartlett in the past are that if we have CPC already funding the Affordable Housing Trust through the dollars that we say that we need, it would almost be like going to the CPC and saying, hey, we want to partner with you on this particular project. Could you fund us some more? So.
But CPC can't fund this project.
Right. Okay, got it. I'm just saying in general, that's what it would be, right? Is if we were to go to them and say, hey, can you partner on this? But we can't get them to do that because of the original reason we couldn't use CPC dollars, right?
Correct.
So Maren, we have a fairly large bank account from CPC funds originally. Do the interest that we earn on the CPC funds still count as CPC dollars, or are they free game for other things?
It's my understanding that the interest also needs to follow the CPC guidelines.
I'm just asking because I know ARPA, the rules were very different for that. So.
The emergency funds through the COA and Elder and Human Services, we have like a cap on that. Would that be something that you could put in there? I don't know if that would work. The Vincent Cooper Fund.
Why don't you and I talk about that? See if it makes sense to include that.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
It wouldn't be like a full match. There's no way I could do 7,500 per applicant, but if there was a need for some assistance through an emergency fund, we might be able to do that. Possibly.
All right.
So Maren, if you need help on the grant application, let me know.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm more than happy to let you do it, but.
So at this point, then it looks like just to make sure that we're all on the same page, we probably should make a motion that we're talking about a request for a $240,000 grant, and that we keep the amount of the applicant grant to be $7,500 per household, and that yes, we could fund this at a higher amount, but that would require putting a lien on the house. And if we do that, I do believe that we're going to have to get some sort of legal counsel involved to be able to do that so that they can actually write the contract. Because that's what it's going to be. That's what it will entail.
So I would make the motion to apply for 240,000 with a cap of 7,500, but not include the language about the lien. I mean, we can decide on our own policies if we get the additional money, and we can debate whether we want to go for a lien or if we want to just look for matching funds, or we want to just approve a larger amount, like at the board's, pleasure.
I'll second Matthew's motion on applying for the $240,000 grant, $250,000 grant, whatever it was.
So I'm understanding Matthew's motion to be 250,000, not 240,000. Is that correct, Matthew?
That was an off the cuff remark.
Okay.
240 actually. I mean, we can justify it with the numbers that we've seen already, given that we will spend 120 this year, or potentially within 6 months. So I think actually, if it makes a difference and evident and any of the decisions on the grant award are evidence based, then let's go for 240, because we can say we spent $120,000 in 6 months.
Okay, and the other part of it is that any requests above 7,500 is at the will of the trust.
I think we're skipping that altogether, right?
Yeah, we can include that language or not. I would suggest we just go forward with the grant, and we can debate the merits of increasing the cap on some criteria later in another meeting if we get the 240,000.
Well, my only question on that, Maren, is that the kind of policy stipulation that would need to be a part of the grant or not.
I don't think the trust would be limiting itself if we put in the grant application very similar to last time, with the similar wording.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion from Matthew, a second from Mark. If no further discussion, let's go ahead and vote on that. Angus,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
and Anna's a yes. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So then we have Amy up again on our next topic. If there's nothing else or is there anything else for the small grant program? If
No.
not, we'll move on.
Good on that one.
Okay. All right. So Amy, we do have an application for LRAP.
Yes, this is a new applicant, so this will be LRAP 41. So it's an elderly couple. They're both receiving Social Security benefits. One of the couple the husband is still working part-time to help with the expenses that they have. Their daughter assists them where she can, as far as helping with applications, and she has said that she'll help them financially where she can as well, but she's also struggling, so it's not a consistent thing. CHAMP application has been completed, so they're on the state subsidized housing wait list, and they are working on their application for Mill Pond and for Littleton Green, which are other subsidized locations federally in the town. And they work with us to explore public benefits such as fuel assistance and SNAP benefits, which SNAP benefits they do not qualify. So they are seeking assistance to make ends meet through the Affordable Housing Trust Littleton Rental Assistance Program.
All right.
So what's their income and where does it lie in AMI?
So they fall within the AMI requirements. They make $51,965 a year. That's including the earned wages and the Social Security benefits.
Thank you.
Any other questions? I hope he likes his job.
think he's willing to do what he needs to do.
Yeah, it's kind of the situation with a lot of folks, unfortunately.
Yeah.
All right, so can we have a motion for LRAP number 41?
I will move
So
to
moved.
approve LRAP 41. Sorry.
All right. And Mark, was that a second?
There, second.
It was Angus.
Angus, thank you, Angus. I'm sorry. I did not see. All right, so any further discussion? If not, let's go ahead and vote on that. Angus,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and Matthew,
Yes.
and Anna's a yes. All right, so we've approved that one as well.
Perfect.
All right, so Amy, is there any other information that you would have for us?
So we do have folks up for recertification.
Okay,
So LRAP 2, this is, they've been enrolled in the LRAP program. Let me get to my notes, sorry. It's a 4-person household with, only one adult member of the household working. 2 adults, 2 children. One of the spouses is unable to work and is ineligible for SSDI. They do receive SNAP benefits and LIHEAP benefits or HEAP benefits now. They utilize food pantries and to supplement food costs, and they've been enrolled in the program since 2019. So they have been enrolled in this program since its inception. They do have 2 children that have medical conditions that require many trips to Boston Children's Hospital. They're active on wait lists for subsidized housing programs and just have not received responses from them. And I'm requesting for them to be certified for another year.
So moved.
I'll second.
So we have a policy that says 3 years and now they're on year 6. So we're okay with them going on for a long period of time. I'm not saying that I'm opposed to it. It's just, it doesn't seem like having a policy that says only 3 years and approving year 6 matches the policy.
Well, I think that as a trust, we had agreed right from the inception that additional requests will be at the discretion of the trust. And that's within the rights of a trust to approve in such dire circumstances.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that if you have a policy that says 3 years and you're violating the policy, then you don't have a policy. So
We're not violating the policy. We did agree within this trust that we will discuss and approve as needed in extenuating circumstances.
Are there extenuating circumstances? Or what are they, I guess, for this couple?
So with this household, the father is able to work and he continues to work as much as he possibly can. The wife is ineligible for disability because of self-employment, so disability income doesn't cover that. If you're self-employed, you don't qualify for disability. So she didn't pay in enough quarters in order to qualify, is essentially what happened with her. They are working on exploring disability for the children because of their extenuating medical conditions. And the housing crisis is really the biggest component, I think, here, in the availability of the vouchers and subsidized housing.
so Mark, to your particular question, I would say that when the policies are not being adhered to and the board, regardless of what board it is, isn't adhering to them, then the policy needs to change. So I think if it's not clear already in our policies, and we would need to ask Maren to research, when that vote was taken, because clearly it was probably done years ago. It would probably be a good idea to take a look at that policy again and amend it so that we can say with clarity, per Angus's comments, that we reserve the right to continue families beyond the 3-year time frame with the approval of the board. I would agree, if there are children with medical restrictions, this family is going to be in need. If they're already receiving SNAP and other public benefits, this family is in need. So I think we should change the policy if it doesn't already say so.
I want to add that the policy, I believe, was changed because we came across certain circumstances exactly as being discussed now, where the family was in extremis and needed more help.
Yeah.
So this proviso that the trust can actually discuss and amend at its discretion is an addendum to that policy, but I don't recall exactly what date or time.
I know we discussed this last year because when we were renewing them, and but my comment still is that we've never actually rejected anyone because they hit their time frame, right? So it's really not saying that there's an exception if everyone is the exception, right? I'm not opposed to giving this family benefits. They clearly need benefits, but we have a policy in place, and we can't. There just seems to be like, we keep saying extenuating circumstances on everyone, right? Which means that no one has extenuating circumstances. Everyone can't be special.
So Mark, are you suggesting we just remove that language?
I'm
Just say that
suggesting
there's not a 3-year limit?
I don't know what the right answer is, right? That might be one solution, but yeah, or we stick to that. I mean, it's been 6 years. How long have they been in the subsidized housing pool, right? I mean, we can't keep doing these forever, right? That's not the point of this. It's meant to help people get on their feet, and will be year number 6, right? How long do we keep helping people get on their feet, right?
Well,
It's meant to be a short-term fix, not a long-term fix.
So I would actually ask Amy and Maren if you could pull together the language that we have for the LRAP program, and we can have that discussion in June, because one of the things that has to happen in the next meeting or in the next month or two is the board needs to relook at the budget and relook at the goals. And I think that would be an appropriate one to take a look at during that time to discuss how do we proceed based on the current language, because I think it's the language that needs to change.
And I must say that somewhere within the minutes of this trust is language where it was inserted that where we come across situations like this, then we do make an independent determination and address it at that time.
Yep, happy to pull together the documentation for the June meeting.
Great, thank you. So with that said, Mark, would you prefer that we postpone the recertification of this one?
I'll vote for it. I just don't, I think at a certain point, we have to decide what, LRAP is meant to be a short-term get on your feet program. 6 years is not a short-term program anymore. So when does it become outside of the bounds, right? And I understand this family's in dire needs and we should be helped and they need help, right? But that wasn't the intent of the LRAP. So.
Okay, so Maren, thank you very much for pulling together that language for the June meeting. And then in the meantime, there was a lot of discussion, but I believe that Matthew had made a motion and Angus had the second. Does that motion remain the same, Matthew?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and Angus still seconding?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and take a vote on this. Angus,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
and Ann is a yes, so we can, so this application can proceed, Amy.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Right. So, we have another recertification. There's 5 more. So just
Okay,
to throw that out there.
and I'm sorry, Amy, real quick, but so that recertification was LRAP number 2, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
So this is LRAP number 7. It's a 2-person household, both elderly. Their annual income is $55,826 a year. Their rent is $1,885 a month. They have been in the program since 2020. They both receive Social Security benefits, and one of them is still working, and they both struggled with significant medical conditions over the summer that have caused a trickle effect of bills. So for this one, I did have a very long conversation with them about their eligibility for the program, and I said that there is the concern that they might not be approved moving forward. They've been in the program for a while, and there is other circumstances. They're on wait lists. But I did say that I would only be requesting for them to be in the program for another year.
Another year starting now.
Yes,
How many years have they been in?
since 2020. They meet the AMI requirements. They definitely fall within the criteria.
Well, I think it's important to say, Amy, that you don't bring anything to us where they don't meet AMI requirements, or if they're on the edge, you bring that to our attention, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I am very forthcoming.
You said their rent is 18. What is their rent?
1,885.
And their income is 55,000?
Yes.
At the moment, yes. So the spouse that continues to work is not able to return to work to her full hourly time. Like she works part-time, but she's limited to a certain number of hours at this moment. So she is hoping to increase that back to her usual amount, but it's still part-time. She is receiving Social Security benefits, so that can be a factor in affecting her on the Social Security side. So she has a certain number of hours a week that she used to work. I think it was 20. So it was, even with her being back to the full 20 hours a week of earned income, that in conjunction with her Social Security benefits and her husband's, they would still fall within the AMI.
And Amy, the Social Security, they're senior citizens, so it's not SSDI. This is
Nope.
Social
Yes.
Security, but she still continues to work.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's my understanding that with Social Security that when somebody continues to work, they can only work up to so much if they haven't reached a certain age. I think it's 65. Or whatever age they need to reach. And so until then, they are restricted as to how much they can earn until they reach that age.
I'm not sure on the logistics of that. I usually tell people to contact Social Security to find out what that cap is. So
Yeah. Any further discussion on this?
What's the number where you're considered housing? It's 30. Does the 1885 consider including their rent or including their utilities? Sorry.
no, it's not. That's just rent alone.
Right. So they're, based on my calculation, they're paying about 40% of their household income on rent.
Without utilities or anything, right?
Right. All right, so if no further discussion, then we should take a vote on whether or not to continue the LRAP for this applicant.
So moved.
I'll second.
All right, so Angus,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
Matthew, and Mark.
No.
Okay, and Anna's a yes, so we will continue recertification on this particular applicant. And that is with 4 yes and 1 no. All right, Amy, we have a few more.
Yes, we have LRAP 10. This is a single individual residing over in the mobile home park. Annual income 22,452 and the rent 440 before utilities.
And they've been in the program for
This-
how long?
Since 2020.
And sorry, Amy, what was the rent?
It's 440 before utilities because they're just paying their lot fee. So on top of that, they have their mobile home insurance and their utilities.
So this is
So
one
with
where
that-
we're going, are they in anything to get out of the mobile home into?
So this is a resident that is their cognitive limitations, physical limitations would be drastically impacted if they were to move to a different residence.
So
So
this is one where we're going
the-
to be paying for the lifetime of the resident. They've been in here for 5 years. There's no plans to move them anywhere else. Correct?
the family's hoping, yes,
If-
for some help. Yeah.
So as I said before, we have a policy that says 3 years. We just approved 2 that are now over, right? This one doesn't even have a plan to get off of the short-term assistance. So I don't know how we say that there's a policy.
They are on those wait lists. It's just the family doesn't foresee her coming off anytime soon because she's not being evicted. You have to be in those dire circumstances to come off those wait lists.
So Amy, I have a question about the applicant's cognitive and physical capabilities. So has there been discussion with the family about her situation that she voluntarily leave that space and go to another space where there's some assistance provided?
So they do private pay for assistance being provided in the home.
Okay.
Which is roughly another $500 a month.
So Anna, what are you suggesting? That potentially she could move to a space covered by Medicaid, or is that?
Right. Well, I mean, yes, to a space where there can be some assistance provided because of the language that Amy used. Cognitive and physical limitations basically means that one now becomes in a position where it's required that somebody be able to provide that care. And what Amy is saying is that somebody is coming in out of private pay to do that.
So-
Which is basically allowing the applicant to remain in their mobile home.
She doesn't yet qualify for skilled, which is when Medicaid would cover,
Oh, okay.
and assisted
Okay.
is not covered by Medicaid.
Mhm.
So,
The
Amy,
cost.
has anybody looked at whether assisted living might be less expensive than private pay?
Assisted living is not less expensive than private pay at this point. No.
Oh, okay.
So I think we need to address Mark's point, right, about, these first three cases we've seen, which definitely are longer than the 3 years. I think in good conscience, it would be difficult to not support these folks that need it, but potentially to give them a year of lead time to let them know that we'll approve for 1 year, but beyond this, they need to look for longer term arrangements because this is supposed to be a short-term program to get them back on their feet. And clearly that's not the case for this individual. So that could be kind of a compromise solution here, is approve for a year, but let them know that beyond that, they need different arrangements. What do you think?
That seems reasonable.
I think that we should also put an agenda item on another meeting to discuss like a policy because it's proving very difficult to tell anyone no. And I think it fights with, I mean, look, we're all compassionate. We don't want to say to them, you can't have this money that's keeping you in your home. But the truth is that Mark's right. Like this is intended to be short term and it's turning into something else. And I don't know what the solution is, but we probably should discuss it like separated from the individual items because we're having a debate every time and it's just not going to be productive.
Right. So I would agree, Matthew, and as per the prior discussion, Maren is going to be bringing us the language that currently resides within our policies for the June meeting. So that will be a calendar agenda item for then.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask Amy, is there a possibility to research what other avenues or opportunities are going to be available to these people? Because it's heartbreaking, to tell a family with young children with special needs that, you're not going to have a home within the next couple of months. Or to tell a cognitively impaired person that, well, this is the last month you're going to be in this mobile home. So in your experience dealing with the agencies that you deal with, are there any avenues for these people to transition out? That's possibly something we should be looking at.
So when you're on wait list for subsidized housing, specifically CHAMP, which is the state subsidized housing site, those ones, there is the language around imminent risk of homelessness or are currently homeless. And until those are checked off, you are not really considered an imminent risk. So you have to be like in court proceedings in order for them to consider you an imminent risk of homelessness, or you already have to be in a shelter. So those are the people that are getting prioritized on that wait list.
Oh, Amy?
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry. So are you basically saying by giving these people the money, we're keeping them off of those lists?
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily go that route because they would have to go into a significant amount of arrears before a landlord would pursue eviction, I think is
And it is a bit of a catch-22 though, right? Because programs like RAFT also, right? Residential assistance for families in transition. You need an eviction notice in order to qualify for that. And the state will provide up to $7,000 a year in aid. But again, it doesn't kick in until there's a threat of eviction.
So, I mean, these folks are current. Everyone that's in the program is current.
And they're current
Right.
in part because of the assistance they get from the Affordable
Exactly.
Housing Trust. Yep. All right, so that's an even higher level policy question, Amy. I don't know that we can address that this evening, but if you have anything from your contacts within the other housing services or within any of the other agencies that assist families to be able to say, I mean, I'm familiar with the cliff, right? That basically says you can't earn too much more money, because once you earn that money, you get cut off of benefits, and then it's the cliff, because then everything goes away. And in this particular case, we're saying that we are essentially keeping folks from going off that cliff with this $500 a month.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're not experiencing that. Once this money goes away, then what happens with them? So that would be my question, is what happens with these folks if that $500 goes away?
I think that would be like one of those where we kind of find out as soon as that happens, you know, are they going to start receiving eviction notices or notice to quit the notice to quit comes before the eviction notice. So you get the notice to quit, which says you have 14 days to comply with paying the arrears in your rent, which scares a lot of folks. Marianne can probably attest to that, with her experience with St. Vincent de Paul. And this is more common, with the folks that are in those bigger complexes that have the lawyers on retainer, like Village Green and Pondside. Rogers would be another one, because they have formal legal team in place that would start handling these notices.
Now, I would say the other fear for a lot of these people is once they get the eviction notice, I mean, the rents that we're looking at, like $1,800 a month, is pretty low. So these landlords could be looking for any excuse to evict these folks. So it definitely, I would say, would bring on a really stressful situation for the families, because it may not just be the threat of eviction, but they could actually want them out again, so they can increase the rent. That's what I'd be concerned about as well.
All right, so we have the discussion in June with the content of our policy language, and Amy, if you do have anything that you could bring forward to the discussion in June about what happens to folks, you know, with a little bit more solid information, maybe using one or two examples that might be helpful in our discussion. Okay,
I
thank
can sit
you.
down with Lauren, sure.
So with
That as well, Amy. Get some
Perfect.
examples.
Thank you.
So with LRAP number 10, circling back then, is there any further discussion on this specific applicant? If not, we need to move this to a vote as to whether or not we approve per Marianne's recommendation that we approve for 1 year.
I so moved.
Second.
Okay, Matthew and Marianne made the motion in second. Any further discussion? All right, let's vote on that. Matthew,
Yes.
Mark,
No.
Marianne,
Yes.
Angus,
Yes.
and Anna's a yes. So that moves forward with 4 yes and 1 no.
Perfect. All right. So we have three more actually. So we have LREP 14. So this is a single mom with 4 kids. There is no child support received. The fathers are not in the picture. Benefits are received for 2 of the children through SSA. The mother was on unemployment because she had lost her job, and that has stopped since end of 2023, beginning of 2024. They are on all the wait lists for subsidized housing. She is working on gaining employment, hasn't had any success yet. She does receive some help from the family when they can. She does receive SNAP benefits. She receives HEAP benefits, and she has been enrolled in the program since 2020. Annual income with the 2 benefits received for children that are receiving SSA is $24,576, and her rent is $1,100.
What LRAP number is this, Amy? I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, LREP 14. I apologize.
Members, any questions for this particular applicant?
What did you say your income was? 24,000?
24,576.
And that's based off of the children's?
She gets SSA benefits for the children, 2 of them.
Could you share with us, are they very young children, middle school children, high school children?
Middle to elementary.
Okay, thank you.
What year were they on the program?
2020.
Are you able to share, how long the applicant has been unemployed?
I would like to say she has struggled with maintaining employment, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that she's a single mom of young children that are often getting sick, and you have to call out of work when you can't send your kid to school, and you have limited informal supports that can help with childcare. I think that's her biggest barrier with finding consistent employment.
So her likely path out of this situation is through subsidized housing.
And
Finding
she
a
is on all
job.
the wait lists and keeps them updated, and she's actively communicating with the different agencies that she's applied with.
All right, any other questions for Amy? So just broadly speaking, Amy, at this point, from a similar type of report that was presented this evening for the small grant program. So will we be using all of the funding from LRAP this year? To your knowledge, you know, the 120,000 that was earmarked for this year. Will it be all used by the end of the year?
No, we
Uh,
haven't had, consistently had 15 applicants for the entire, active participants for the entire year.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right.
We did have 2 people that did not, so LREP 22 and LREP 34 did not need to reapply.
Okay, well, that's
So-
good.
Yeah.
Wishing them well. That's good. All right, so back to LRAP number 14. Any further questions, comments? If not, we'll move forward to vote on this. Mary Ann,
Can I ask, are we limiting them to? They've been in for 5 years. Are we putting the same qualification as we put on the last one that they have to find a way to?
would you like to make a motion on that?
I'm going to vote against it, but I'll make a motion that we put that we approve LRAP, whatever this number is, for 1 more year and tell them the same language Mary Ann used on the last one, that this is their last year.
Well, let's hang on a minute. I thought we were going to review these options in June when we have information from the policy document.
So, thank you, Angus and Mark. So right now, Amy is coming to us to recertify these applicants for next year for 25-26. And the policy that we're going to take a look at is what currently exists, and we will amend it based off of that conversation. And so I'm looking at it that we are making decisions right now on these that that policy discussion in June isn't going to affect, because that policy discussion in June isn't going to be till the middle of June sometime, and Amy needs to move forward on these. So
Right. So we approve them as per standard protocol, and then after the meeting in June, we follow up on the policy, or we follow on whatever comes out of that meeting.
So what you're saying, Angus, is that if we were to put the 1-year restriction on this, that perhaps that 1-year restriction would go away? Is that what I hear you saying?
Possibly, but I suppose that what my recommendation or what my suggestion is to approve them for a standard 1 year, which we've done for a couple of those that came through tonight. And then come June, once we review the policy and make a definite determination, then we can now start imposing limits.
All right. I'm good with that. That sounds good to me. Any other comments? Okay. All right. So with that said, then let's go back to LRAP 14. We have the motion to approve it with the amendment from Mark to approve it for 1 year. Any further discussion? All right. If not, let's vote. And so Angus,
Yes.
Mark,
No,
Matthew,
Yes.
Marianne,
Yes.
and Anna's a yes. So that is approved on a 4-1 vote.
Great.
All right.
2 left. All right, so LRAP 17 is up for recertification. Annual income is 28,440. Rent is 650 before utilities. This is significantly lower rent amount. Single person household, works with us to apply for all the different benefits, does receive minimal SNAP benefits. He's been enrolled in the program since 2022, so I think this is year 4 for him. Just had a lot of expenses this year and was hoping to catch up on them and remain in the program for another year. Again, he's one that I've reviewed and said that program does have a limitation, and it is likely that he might not be approved for coming year.
Amy, you said the rent was 650 with utilities?
Before utilities,
Okay, and what was the income?
28,440.
Any chance for him to get a higher paying job to increase his income? That seems like about, depending on the hours, it's close to minimum wage.
He's a senior. He's not working anymore. One of
Oh,
his
it's-
benefits is veteran. He's a disabled veteran.
Got it. Okay. So that's
So,
Social Security and veterans benefits?
Yes, he has some Social Security and a limited, and then a veteran's disability pension.
Thank
so
you.
you said, just to be clear, you said his rent was 650 and his income was 28,000?
Mm-hmm.
So he's not even considered rent restricted. He's at 27% for his rent. He's not even considered
Burdened.
burdened. Before you include utilities. He would probably be close with utilities, but before utilities, he's not even rent burdened.
That is correct. I got the same figure. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah,
I
my
think-
feeling- Sorry, I was just going to say, even though he wouldn't be considered burdened, when you get down to that level of income, even if it's not 30 or 40%, 28,000 doesn't go too far, when you start adding in the regular monthly expenses. So I would make a motion to approve number 17.
So we have a motion to approve by Mary Ann, second by Angus. Any further discussion?
Can I ask a question? Do we have to approve them for the full $500 amount?
It's
Good
a
question.
it's up to a maximum of 500.
Well, his
So
rent, yeah, but we said up to, but we've never approved anyone for less than 500 when their rent is more than 500.
So I know what you're saying because this particular applicant is not rent burdened. The rent is not more than 30% of their household income.
So Mark, you're saying maybe approve him for 300 instead of 500 to cover half of his rent instead of the full 500.
Yes.
I will second that as an amended motion.
All right, any further discussion on that amendment? Okay. All right, so we are voting now on approval of this applicant at $300 with the acknowledgement that the applicant is not rent burdened at 30%. All right, so Angus,
Yes.
Matthew,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
and Ann is a yes. Thank you. Thank you, members. All right, Amy.
One more. All right. Well, we're up 20. They are receiving 58,400 as a two-person household. The rent is 1,850. Sorry, my dog must have caught something up his husband's chasing after her, if you can hear it. Two-person household with one source of income. The spouse is unable to work due to medical conditions and is ineligible for SSDI and SSI benefits. They are ineligible for SNAP at their current income, and they work with us to apply for HEAP benefits, and they've been enrolled in the program since 2022.
So Amy, what's their transition off the program?
They're hoping the husband can sometimes get a bonus, and they're hoping that this year will be a good year for them financially and he will receive a bonus, but they aren't they're another one that's kind of stuck in like a troubling situation with their finances. Struggling to make ends meet, trying to look at different rentals that they can qualify for through the affordable programs, and they're looking at low income housing.
I'm sorry, Amy, you said their household income was 48?
58.
58. Okay.
58,400.
Okay.
And the reason they don't qualify for SSDI is because there was an unwritten, there's a written rule that's not like broadcasted that they didn't apply for disability soon enough. During the pandemic, she had held off on applying, and there's a 2-year time frame from your last date of employment. So when she applied, they denied her because it had been 2 years since her last day of working.
So she's ineligible, but she's also not able to work?
Correct.
So what's the solution to get out of that? This is another one that seems like is a forever candidate unless they get some other situation, right? They have to move to somewhere cheaper, right? And we're another one that's approaching year 4.
We've talked about going into different communities where you can qualify for an affordable unit that would be lower than what they're currently paying. So they're looking into that, but it hasn't come up yet that they've found a place.
Any further comments, questions? All right, so do we have a motion on this particular applicant?
I would make a motion to approve with the 1-year limit. that we talked about.
Okay, so Marianne moved, Angus second on LRAP number 20 to renew for 1 year. All right, all those in favor, Marianne,
Yes,
Mark,
Yes.
Matthew, and Angus,
Yes.
and Anna's a yes. Okay.
That's my final one.
All right. Well, that was a lot of work, Amy. So thank you on our behalf for all the communication that I'm sure goes into just bringing those forward to us.
Amy, those are all the ones that you have for renewal, or those are all the ones that will be renewed?
So these are the ones that are up for renewal beyond that 3-year point.
Okay. So there will be others that are coming up for renewal soon too, or these are the only ones that are more than 3 years old? The rest are automatic renewals? Is that what you're saying? I'm asking what happened. How many LRAPs do we have active versus how many that we just approved? Are there more that are going to be coming up for recertification in the short term?
So we have 3 that were recently approved,
Mm-hmm.
and then we have 4 that are within that 3-year time frame that still qualify and still meet the criteria. Two that did not recertify. So
I think
Do we have,
we're at-
don't we have to reapprove the ones that still meet the criteria that are within the 3 years?
If I recall correctly, you leave that to Amy to do, and she only brings you the ones that require, if I recall correctly, she brings to the trust the ones that go beyond the 3 years. She recertifies the income levels every year to assure that they still qualify.
I thought we still had to approve them, even if they did. I mean, okay. Not that I'm wanting to deny them, but it seems like they should have to reapply and be re-voted anyway. If I'm reading everyone else's policies correctly, that's how Westford and Air do it. I haven't actually looked at our policy at this point, but otherwise, how do you know that if you had new applicants versus the existing ones and we had limited funds, which ones you pick?
We haven't reached that point yet.
I know we're lucky on that part, but
So
Okay.
what if, as part of Maren bringing forward the policy discussion around LRAP, identifying the process as to how an applicant gets approved and how an applicant recertifies that approval? Just putting something in writing that then we can all sign off on. I think that would be really helpful.
My understanding of the process is that Amy reviews them and only brings to us the ones that need to be approved. Is that correct, Amy?
that's how I understood it.
Yep, me too.
I'm happy to do it however you guys would like, whatever makes you feel more comfortable.
I think what Angus said, and I agree, I think we just if we can just get that in writing so that we have that as one of our policies, that this is the one step. No question about it moving forward. And then, Mark, if you want to make any kind of an amendment to what you see in June, then it can be done then.
Well, our policy on the website, it says applications will be presented for consideration of recertification at the May Affordable Housing meeting to avoid any disruption. It doesn't say anything about whether they're over 3 years. It just says everyone will be presented. It says applications.
Well, it's because they're approved and they can't go beyond 3 years. So that's,
No, it doesn't say anything on the website. It says applications for recertification will be mailed out to participants in April to allow a full month for updates, corrections to applications, and submittal of the required supporting documentation due the first week of May. Applications will be presented for consideration of recertification at the May AHT meeting to avoid any disruption of rental payments to the landlord for the upcoming year.
Right.
It doesn't say anything about anyone over 3 years
correct.
on our website.
Correct. And what we're saying is that that has been the informal way that it's been done. And now if we want to formalize it, that's why I'm asking Maren and Amy to put the process down in writing as to how do you become approved, and then how do you become approved during the recertification. Once that's in writing, we can take a look at it in June and make any amendments that we want to make.
What I'm saying is that is in writing. That is what I'm
Okay,
reading
and
off
I
of the
get
website.
that. I know that that's
I
what,
don't have a problem recertifying the ones, but they do have to be voted according to this, right? Which is what our documentation says, so.
and I think what I'm saying, according to what we've been doing for the last 6 years, is that the only time that we recertify is when they come up against that particular 3-year time frame, or if there's been a significant change in household circumstances.
Yeah, I
So,
think
so
some
what
of
you're
that is-
saying,
What I'm hearing
Wait,
is there's a difference in what
Practice
you're
versus
thinking
policy.
recertifying is and what Amy does annually.
Right.
So we can certainly have that discussion.
and bringing forward whatever is in writing, like Mark said, from the website, so that we can go through it and make sure that we're all on the same page about what we'd like to see going forward.
Absolutely, but we have to remember that if we have to sit and approve absolutely every LRAP every year, I mean every month, it's going to be an onerous meeting.
No, we approve them every year.
Once a year.
That's what we do, once a
Yeah,
year.
Yes, every year.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's suggesting doing anything every month.
No.
I think it's a good idea to approve it, and I
misspoke.
also think it's not a bad idea to formalize this also, right? And especially a point that was brought up earlier, if we run out of funds and if we have to start looking across applicants and prioritizing, I think it's a good idea to look across the full pool, right? To help to prioritize.
Yeah, you never know when that might have to happen. It's a good idea to formalize it, so. Thank you, Amy and Maren, for the work that you've done and for that's coming up.
No problem.
All right. Great. So if nothing further on LRAP, then we'll move on to our next agenda item. All right,
Okay.
so strategy 1.1, which is status of funding request to town meeting for LRAP. Bartlett is not here this evening, so real quick, just a follow up to the May 6th town meeting. Article 26 did identify 106,000 from the community housing preserves to the Affordable Housing Trust LRAP program. And so now what that means, based off of what was done last year and moving forward, anytime we request funds from town meeting and they're approved, the trust needs to have a grant agreement exhibit signed between CPC and Affordable Housing Trust. Last year was the very first year that we did this, and so we had to go through and get town council involved, and they created a grant agreement. Now all we have to do is add on another exhibit identifying the amount of the funds that were approved at town meeting, and CPC signs it and the trust signs it, and then the accountant, Michelle, transfers the funds over officially sometime in June or July. So that's the way the process works. So in terms of that particular exhibit, Mara, do you want me to work with Carolyn on it, or do you want to draw that up? How do you want to work that?
Kind of depends on what timing you're looking at. If you're looking sooner than later, I would rather have you do it.
Okay. So I'll ask her to draft that. And so then I'm trying to think about last year. I think we just went ahead and signed it and then turned it over to Diane Crory as an officially signed document. Anything else that we need to do about that? From your perspective, Maren?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
So I'll work on that. Any questions about it? Okay. So next is item D on the agenda, the strategy for 119 to Hadawan Road. And Mark, can you provide an update on that?
So we are in the process of signing the lawyers are involved in doing the transfer, the final closing. Mara and I spoke with Carolyn about whether they needed to do an environmental review, and it was determined that was at their risk. I guess they've opted against it. They should be doing the closing any day now, as far as I know. So, and I don't know, I know they have to do a site walk and some other things at some point, a site plan, but I haven't heard what a schedule is yet. I will follow up on when the closing is and a schedule, what their schedule will be.
Okay. Great, thank you. And let us know if you need anything from us.
Yep.
Look forward to that project getting going. That's great. Then item E on the agenda, strategy 2.3, ensuring the King Street Common development builds at least the number of affordable rental units as approved in the planning board decision. So given the discussion about senior affordable units that was had at town meeting, I just wanted to make sure that everybody here, if you didn't know, does know, and if you did know, just as a reminder, in the planning board decision that was done for 550 King Street, there is a plan in the appendix of that decision that identifies the phasing of all of the different apartment units. And in the phasing, it says phase 1 and phase 2. It identifies the different buildings and the time frame. And this was approved by the planning board last June 2024. And in here, there was a sentence added that says senior affordable units will be constructed no later than phase 3, which at this time was supposed to be between 2027 and 2029. So it is still the intention, based off this decision from the planning board, that the 40 senior affordable units will be constructed no later than phase 3. And again, based off of another point in this decision, those units can be either on or off site of the 550 King Street development. So again, that's just for your information. Wanted to make sure that everybody knows that that's still something that that is required of Lupoli Company.
And
Yes.
I have a question. We've had situations in the past where builders have skirted the rule to provide these percentage of houses for seniors. I'm not privy to the full details of the 550 King Street stipulation, but is it ironclad to where the developer is going to be held with his feet in water to make sure that these units are all built? Perhaps Maren might know a little bit more about that. I don't know.
Well, from my perspective, to answer your question, it's in the decision, and it's really up to the town to uphold that decision by holding their feet to the fire if they're choosing not to. And so it really is up to the planning board. I'm sure the select board has influence. And the reason why this particular strategy was in here that we all approved last year was that we want to ensure that this affordable housing is created. And so that's one of the reasons why I wanted to bring it to your attention, is because this board does have this as a specific strategy. We have that level of influence to be able to go back to the planning board, to go back to the select board and say, hey, we understand, we hear, we're thinking, believing that this isn't going to happen. What assurances are there that it is going to happen? So I do believe that this is something that we should continuously monitor to make sure that it's going to be built. Because if not, then who knows what could happen. So that's my opinion.
Thank you. I just wanted to, have it on record that we've had developers who have skirted the rule. So
is there an action here?
well, I'm not sure there was an action on this.
There's no action.
Yeah.
The action is actually the strategy, and that is for us as the Affordable Housing Trust to ensure that those get built. At least the number of affordable housing units as approved in the decision. So Mary Ann, to your question, no, there isn't anything other than we have to continuously be vigilant about it.
Okay, so then the action might be to monitor the plans for the different phases. And if it's by latest phase 3, then we should review the phase 3 planning to make sure that we have 40 affordable units. Is that what we're suggesting?
Well, that's 40 of the senior units. It's a lot more than that. If there's 804 total that are going to be built, there'll be 81 affordable units, 40 of which are the senior unit.
Right. And those are the ones that are committed by, in phase 3, you said, 2027 and 29?
Correct. Yeah. So do we want anybody want to second Mary Ann's motion?
I second it.
Okay. So any further discussion? All right, Mary Ann,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Matthew? I take it that was a yes. I didn't quite hear you.
Sorry. Yes.
Okay. Angus
Yes.
and Anna's yes. All right. So continuing to monitor, that would be great. And Maren, did you have anything that you wanted to say about this?
It's exciting to hear that the Affordable Housing Trust is still in support of affordable housing. Just be aware that the process of zoning enforcement is the building commissioner. He has the authority to enforce the planning board's special permit. The planning board has influence, but not any authority on it.
So does that mean that the building commissioner could possibly delay the affordable housing?
The developer, if the developer wanted to delay the affordable housing, it would be difficult for the town to compel him to build something that he didn't want to build. That's the situation we got into on Dean Lane. For one unit. So it's definitely a situation that you want to continue to work with the developer the whole way through the process.
Meaning we should be working directly with the developer, or the planning board should?
I would suggest it's the town administrators and staff's job to continue to work with the developer the whole way through. If there's any, yeah.
Okay.
As I said, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to make sure that everybody on this board is well aware that it's something that does need to be monitored. So, thank you. Then with strategy F, or agenda item F, which is strategy 2.5, monitor and influence the potential for affordable senior housing at the Shattuck Street Town Hall. So we know that the article that was brought forward, Article 12 at May 6th town meeting, did not move forward. And so I don't know if that will ever be resurrected, but as of right now, that particular item is not on the radar. All right, so then we can move on to board business. So for any updates, Maren, did you have anything else that you wanted to share with the members this evening?
No, thank you though.
Angus, how about you?
Not today, thank you.
Right. Mark.
I attended the Habitat for Humanity breakfast a few weeks ago. They were very excited about the Littleton project and also are working on another project in Littleton after ours, which will be the Dean Lane project. So they have closed on the property. I believe they closed it on the property on Dean Lane last week, and will be building a house, affordable house there.
So for anyone who might not remember, Dean Lane is over on the Cooper Farm development. And so that particular lot was in question for several years. And with the developers giving it over to Habitat for Humanity, it's good to see that that's going to be an affordable housing unit. I don't believe that we have a role in that other than to ultimately try to get that on the SHI so that it can't be counted.
No, because of the way the HOA is set up. That was the one, nobody under the age of 18 can reside in that.
Oh, that's right, because of the age restriction, so it
Right.
can't be on the SHI. Okay,
And with HLC's policy changing a handful of years ago, that it wouldn't qualify.
yeah, thank you for that reminder. Yeah, that's the one thing that was different about that development, because it was the first one that, or it's the last one before the senior residential development changes went into play. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks, Mark. So thanks for going and representing Littleton. Anything else?
I'll leave Marianne for the other one, for the fundraiser tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Is it my turn now?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so first point, Maren, I'll respond to your message in email, but thank you for forwarding that invitation for the spring forum in Devens. And if there is a seat available, I would love to attend. So I'll respond in email, but thank you for that. And second point, Mark had raised, there's a fundraiser tomorrow at Dirigibles, which is a brew house. You guys probably know, I think it's on Porter Street. And it's for the benefit of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul. So I think you've heard me talk about it, and Amy maybe, but we work closely with residents of Littleton to help folks who are going through a rough patch, help them by usually financially, by paying a bill, either rent, mortgage, utilities. But there's some really good raffle items, basket items. So if you would like to attend, we'll be at Dirigibles 4 to 8 tomorrow. And tell all your friends.
Do you happen to have a flyer on that?
I will send it to this group as soon as we finish here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Marianne. And
Thank
so missing you guys and a few others is why we needed to move the meeting from the 20th to the 19th. So very good reason. Thank you.
Thank you.
Matthew, how about you? Anything new?
No,
You want-
not today.
Okay. Alrighty. Okay. So then moving on to the magic appointment. So I know that the select board has a magic appointment and the planning board has a magic appointment. And so the Affordable Housing Trust has an appointment as well, or has the opportunity to make an appointment as well. And I apologize, I didn't get this sent out, but so there is a convening of the Magic Regional Municipal Affordable Housing Trust kickoff meeting. It's on Thursday, May 29th from 9 to 11 a.m. And so it says this meeting is intended to be the first of a series of convenings with the purpose of providing a regular space for you all as Affordable Housing Trust chairs, board members, and invested planners to gather to get to know each other and to learn from each other. We aim to create a space for you all to share successes and lessons learned, talk through problems you may be facing, ask questions, and learn new best practices. We hope this space will give you an opportunity to build working relationships. Our vision is that these discussions will improve the effectiveness of AHTs all throughout the region. The meeting will take place in the Concord Townhouse, Concord, Mass. And so I would like to know who would like to self-nominate for this particular role. As chair, I'm not able to attend daytime meetings like that. So is there anyone here today who would like to be able to be appointed?
I think I responded and said I would attend the meeting, so
Okay,
I forget. You'll have to send me it again in case I don't have it on my calendar.
okay.
Thanks, Mark. You'll represent us well.
I was at their last meeting, so, or a similar meeting, so.
Any other comments or questions on that? Great, and then if you can just refresh us or update us, I should say, with anything that that's going on there, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, anything else before we move on to approving our minutes? We have 3 sets of minutes from April 2nd, April 15th, and April 30th. Are there any comments or questions about any of those? All right, seeing none, do we have a motion to approve these minutes?
Move that we approve the minutes. as listed.
A second.
Matthew and Mary Ann, thank you. So move to a vote. We have Angus,
Yes.
Mark,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Yes.
and Matthew. Great. All right, so all of those approved. And then we have scheduling of our next meeting, which is going to be next Tuesday, the 27th at 6:30 p.m. And the primary purpose of that meeting is to be able to discuss Turkey Farm. And based on the last meeting that we had with Laura Schufelt from MHP, she said that she was going to be providing us with the updated versions of a plan and RFP based off the discussions that we had with her. And so this evening, we talked about coming back to one item on the small grant program. Mary Ann and Mark, do you think you'll have something for next Tuesday, or do you wish to postpone that discussion?
I'll try and after this call, I'll try and set up a meeting with Bartlett and Marianne for later this week. So I'll let you know shortly.
Okay.
Mark, I think that we have a select board meeting that night.
Right.
Yes. And unfortunately for next week, that's the only date that Laura said she was able to be there. So given Mary Ann, Angus, Bartlett, and I, and possibly Sue, that would be 5 of us being able to attend that meeting.
Oh, that's fine. I just wanted Mark to make sure Mark knew he wasn't going to be able to present.
Yep.
No,
That's true. Yeah. So that would be Mary Ann or Bartlett talking. Okay.
I can take it. Yep.
Okay.
With Bartlett.
All right. So the reason why I ask about that is because if you think that we're going to be able to have that conversation next Tuesday night, we should try to keep it short. But Maren will need to update the agenda then for the 27th to add that on as an agenda item. So Mark, when you contact me, if you could please just copy Maren so that she knows to update that agenda or not. And then on June 17th, that would be our next meeting, next regularly scheduled meeting, Tuesday, June 17th. Does that is that date an issue for anybody?
I can do June 17th.
Angus, you're good with June 17th?
Yes, please.
Okay. And you're confirmed for next Tuesday, the 27th?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. Good. All right. So I think we're set then. Anything else that we should address before we adjourn?
So just one more question. I noticed on our website that 4 of us have terms that are expiring in June. So our appointments to this trust. So what is the process for next step for those?
So it depends on where the approving or authorizing group comes from. So for example, which group approved you? Select board, correct?
Select board, yeah.
Yeah. So Mark and Matthew are on the select board. What would that process entail?
We have a regular event where we appoint people. And so your name will be put on the list, assuming you would like to continue, and we will.
Okay, sounds good. And apologies for the rookie question.
That's fine.
Oh, that's okay.
And actually, I don't know whether, because our assistant TA left last week, Jim, our TA, may be overwhelmed. So it might be a good idea to remind him that we need someone appointed. And I would be happy to do that.
I don't know if it comes from him or like Diane Corey will send out something to ask you to.
That's true.
I'll see. I plan on going. I'll be in town hall tomorrow, so I'll ask and figure out. and let you know, Marianne.
Okay.
I think
And it will
that-
need to go through the town administrator, and Sue is the appointed by this council on aging, so.
And Diane Crory does handle that. You're right, Mark.
Super. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. So, all right, if there's anything else, then is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and whew, we made it in less than 2 hours.